We are live. It is Empire State of Baseball on this Monday, October the 30th, 2023. This episode number 66, and we're airing on Twitch, X, and YouTube. And as always, powered by StreamYard on this spooky edition of Empire State of Baseball, as we are on the eve of Halloween, just a few hours away from the holiday. And I'm going to just throw this question around the room. And I know we've been kind of semi-hyping up Halloween as far as, and of course the World Series, which always simultaneous.
No, I'm not going to egg Joe's house tonight. I'm not going to egg Joe's house. Let's get it out of the way.
Great. I'm glad we got that out of the way. But Thomas, when you were a little tight, you were going house to house, trick-or-treating, or TPing Joe's house when you didn't even know him. What was your favorite candy or chocolate that you were happy to see in your basket?
As a kid, I was never really a big candy person. I used to just give my candy to like my mom and my sister, and I didn't care too much about it. But now Reese's are number one.
Reese's, yeah, I was happy with good old fashioned like Hershey's chocolate bar.
Yeah.
I'm actually with Joe there too. Hershey's. If I was feeling frisky, I'm gonna say Skittles, particularly the Skittles sours. I thought the sour ones were really good. M&M's too. You know, those are a staple too. So that of Halloween candies, those are probably my three ones I would go to. Those would be the best ones.
You know what I actually love, which are like objectively a crappy candy? Smarties. Like you get the roll of Smarties. They're just like semi-flavored sugar. Like not a good candy, but I still love them.
Yeah.
Probably like candy corn too.
No, I don't like candy corn.
I'm also a very big Sour Patch fan, but that wasn't the most popular of Halloween candies, I feel like. So it's usually in a little bit of a bigger package. But Sour Patch might be my favorite candy in general. It's just that it's not a very common Halloween candy.
Good theater box candy there, Corey. Really go to the real expensive homes that are giving away theater boxes and stuff. Favorite candy or chocolate? I'm a big chocolate bar person, so I got to go Crunch. I do love Hershey as well. Reese's, fat kid at heart. Kit Kats, love all that stuff. It was always a good time getting one of those in your basket here. We asked the chat here. Alana C827, what is your favorite candy? Chocolate, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, always and forever. So we got that poll out, so make sure to give us a shout on YouTube or Twitch or even X as well if you're viewing that way. But we have a nice show for you guys tonight. Obviously, the spooky edition of ESB, so we might have some a little Halloween twist to a couple of our segments tonight that you can check out. Now, we're obviously going to start things off with the postseason push. We are in the World Series, and a week ago today, no one expected that this was going to be the World Series matchup that is unfolding. The Arizona Diamondbacks and the Texas Rangers entering Game 3 of a tied series. I saw a statistic, and one of you guys could also vouch for me here. I believe it's 69% of Game 3 wins results in a World Series victory. I think I saw that stat. I think it was released on MLB on Fox, so you guys can vet me on that later. Next, we have Trick of the Trade. Trick of the Trade will be back for one final time. Again, we have a little bit of a Halloween mix and twist to it, so we'll get to that later on tonight. And Top of the Order makes its return. I haven't done Top of the Order since the early part of season number 2. That's going to be back. We're going to be listing off our favorite postseason moments of our lifetime. So that'll be a lot of fun. We'll get into more of that later on, but we'll start things off with the postseason push as we've been rolling through this playoffs. It's crazy. We're at the World Series here. And Corey Fabs, what's some early takeaways of this Diamondbacks-Rangers series?
I mean, early takeaway, like you said before, Rich, I did not expect this, especially looking back a week ago, or whatever it was, when the Arizona Diamondbacks were down 2-0 in that series, and they lost Game 2. They got bludgeoned Game 2 versus the Phillies. At that point, everyone thought it was said and done and buried. Diamondbacks came back, and what a rally! And looking at this series too, you had a great Game 1. Where it kind of swung back and forth a little bit. I think the Rangers had the early lead. Then the Diamondbacks were ahead most of the game just to blow it late. Rangers win an extra inning. So great Game 1. Diamondbacks taking Game 2. So now you got a third game here. And I like that statistic you called out too with Game 3 taking about 69% roughly of the vote.
69%.
69. You know what? That kind of makes sense too, because if you think about it, if a team is up 2-0 and they take Game 3, you're rarely ever going to see that loss. It does happen, as we know. And if you're tied 1-1 and you take it, you kind of own your own playoff fate. So 2/3 of the time, you own your own destiny. And if you're down 2-0 when you win, that's the 1/3 that you're not. So it kind of makes sense to 69%. I can see it.
Yeah, I mean, Game 3's always been that pivotal game. I think Joe Torre was the one who said it. Is like that's why he always saved Andy Pettitte for Game 3. We felt it was the most important game, and a lot of times when Andy Pettitte might have been the second best starting pitcher on the Yankees, he would always pitch the Game 3 because it was such a pivotal decision. It's more more of a pivot game in a 5-game series because you then only need one more win. But in a 7-game series, it's important. If you've lost home field advantage, you can gain it back with a Game 3 win. If you split the going ahead and win Game 3 in your home ballpark, that sets you up. All you need is 2 more wins in your ballpark to seal the deal. So it's a big game. And listen, these two teams are let's be honest, flawed teams. These are not superstar, super house teams. They're flawed teams. It does make for great baseball. We're seeing a lot of names that are not household names perform. Tommy Pham went 4 for 4 the other day. Merrill Kelly pitched a brilliant game. The day before was captioned off by Adolis Garcia. He's kind of become a household name now. But the Rangers have bullpen issues. The Diamondbacks have an offense that kind of sputters and turns on again at different times. So at the end of the day, these are not, Dodgers and Yankees or Dodgers and Astros that where everybody on the team is a household name. These are two teams that are fighting to be in this position for the first time in a very, very long time for these teams. And, you're kind of getting a fun series here where heroes are made and guys who, are overlooked or underappreciated become household names due to heroics. And
I mean, the Rangers have a lot of big name guys though, with Seager and Simeon. Even Adolis Garcia was in the home run derby with Joe's boy back Scherzer. Joe's other boy DeGrom just watching from the sidelines, and they have some pretty big names. The D-backs definitely are the team of the band of misfits and maybe some cast off type guys that have caught on there, and it's fun to root for teams like that. Either way, I think it's going to be an exciting end to the World Series here. You're either gonna have the Rangers win their first ever or the Diamondbacks win their first in 22 years. So it's gonna be a lot of fun to see whatever fan base gets to celebrate that.
Mm-hmm.
I love the parallels that social media has drawn from the 2001 Diamondbacks run to now between the two ace pitchers killing a bird. Just, one in spring training, one just warming up, Gallen and Randy Johnson to the fact that George W. Bush threw out the first pitch of the World Series. And now the Diamondbacks are in position 3 games.
You're missing the bet. You're missing the best one.
You didn't even mention the best part of that.
The best one was after Game 1. The Diamondbacks had played 4 World Series road games, and in 3 of them, they gave up a 2-run home run the bottom of the 9th and a walk-off home run in extras.
Right.
That is
parallel the Tino home run. Yeah, I got you. The Tino home run and the Mr. November home run, which we'll talk about later on tonight. But yes, absolutely. Really cool stuff when you get those parallels in the mix there. And even another drawing today, the fact that Max Scherzer getting the ball and he started his career in Arizona. So kind of going back to where it all started. So I love seeing those parallels come through. When social media brings that stuff up, that's a lot of fun. Also saw Randy Johnson in a dead bird Halloween costume over the weekend. That was cool. Barstool posted that. Really cool stuff, to say the least. But yeah, you mentioned those household names, and I can tell you, I don't know if a single casual fan can name a single Diamondback that's on this team. And Corbin Carroll's a little too early. Maybe Evan Longoria, but they got to know that
they know he's there.
Yeah. If he even knows they even know he's there. So yeah, it's really cool to see these teams in the mix. But again, we're kind of going back to a conversation that we had last week, or even weeks prior when we talked about if the New York teams not being in the postseason hurts viewership for the playoffs. And we got through it. We're like, all right, listen, if we have another Astros Phillies World Series, we're gonna, they're gonna see a number. But now you're talking about the number 5 and number 6 teams that a few years ago wouldn't even be a part of this postseason picture. So, guys, and I'll start with Tom and I'll work our way around there. Should baseball consider reverting back to the original way that they did the playoffs and have a 4-4 and make sure that they have a team that deserves to be in the World Series that's a legitimate team?
I would like to see them do it, and to do that, you need expansion, because you need to have 4 divisions per league, and then you just have the 4 division winners go to the playoffs. So you have like
Not necessarily.
And I mean that would make the most sense though. You basically have 4 divisions in each league, 4 teams in each. Similar to how the NFL is set up, and then you just eliminate the wild cards, and then you just the winner of each one. Whenever each one goes. I think that's a better way. Baseball's regular season is so long, it really is the playoffs. And I do think, we'll have a worthy winner at the end of this, but I do think it cheapens it when you're not getting the teams that win 105 or whatever games and they're gassed out for the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of eliminating the wild card. I think you got to keep the wild card because you have scenarios where like the Mets and Braves last year, where 2 teams won 100 games in the same division. That you cannot have a 100-win team miss out on the playoffs.
Instead of doing that, do 2 divisions.
I
do
think,
NL West, NL East, and then you have whatever. You have
I think
8 teams in each, and the top 2 go. I'd be fine with that too.
I think the idea is when they add the expansion teams, and one's going to be Nashville and the other one is yet to be determined. But I think when they're going to do the expansion teams, I think you're going to see a reshuffle into the NFL model, which is going to be, or the original NFL model. Now the NFL's even stepped it up again, but which is 4 divisions, 2 wild cards, plus the 4 division winners, which gives you the 6 that you have now. The one thing that I would like to see is reseed in the bracket. I mean, these leagues have become obsessed with this bracket model. The NBA does it. The idea that the 2 wild card teams get there and the higher seed sometimes has to play the best wild card team is ridiculous. The lowest seed needs to play the highest seed after the wild card round. I think you're seeing this play out because that second round matchup sometimes for these wild card teams is not the hardest matchup. So the lowest seed, like if you look at the Rangers, the lowest seed in the second, once they got out of the division, wasn't necessarily the hardest team to play. They played the Astros in the CS. They should play the Astros early on because they were the lowest seed. Or that's right. So that would be my solution to it, is you reseed after each round. I think that's the right way to do it.
NFL does it that way.
You need to push the advantage for the 2 teams who have earned those buys and not have a 2 seed end up playing a 3 seed because you've bracketed it in that fashion. I think that's the wrong way to do it. I think that's why you're seeing a couple weaker teams. But listen, for the casual baseball fan, you know what? This is not the best or ideal matchup. But for the diehard baseball fans, this is a great matchup. You're seeing 2 teams you never see before. You have parity in this league. So like
more than the NBA.
Right. Exactly. So in this scenario, I think the AL actually worked out exactly how it should have been. In this scenario, the Diamondbacks should have played the Braves. And the Phillies should have played the Dodgers. And because the Diamondbacks are the worst seed, the Braves should play the worst seed in the playoff format. I think that's the solution to this problem. And I think that's the simple way to do it. I know they like the bracket. I know it gets the brackets going and the picks and all this.
I think they just honestly like the brackets because then you fill out a bracket and it's sponsored by whatever Scott's and
Loan Depot.
Loan Depot, and then now I get Loan Depot emails. That's why they do it, which is really infuriating that they're like pinching pennies that much. That's where we're at.
Exactly. I mean, I agree. Take money aside. In terms of the reseeding aspect, I personally am all for it. I totally agree. I mean, the AL, like Joe said, it worked out pretty much as expected, but the NL side definitely did not. Rangers being a 5 seed, though, that one was a little bit of a toss-up because I know they were battling with Houston literally down to the final day of the season. So even though they were a 5 seed, and this is what we said a little bit last week too, the thing with Texas, that's a team, and Houston too. So that whole championship series on the AL side, those are 2 teams that had something to fight for literally down to the very last day in a 162 game season. When you're going on cruise control at game 140 and at game 125, you pretty much know that division's locked up unless an epic collapse like the Mets. It's hard to just continue and reset that switch. And some teams do it, but some teams don't. I think the AL this year played out perfectly from that standpoint. Diamondbacks got hot at a right time, and they played, a couple of teams, got some big upset wins there. In terms of formats outside of the reseeding, I personally was a huge fan of the most recent prior format, where it was the 2 wild card game, wild card game. And I thought it was good because it gave you 2 things. One, it really did want you to win the division. So you won't have instances where you're just trying to sneak in as that 3rd wild card team now just to find a way into the playoffs. So I do like that from that standpoint. It puts a little more emphasis on the division. And the most exciting part of these baseball series in general, if you have a team that's not in the series at all, what do you enjoy most about it is those elimination games. This year, you didn't actually see it because in the wild card round, best of 3, each series was 2-0. Last year, you did see it, and I thought it was actually pretty fun how it worked out last year. You didn't get that fun aspect last year, but if you want to do it from pure entertainment standpoint, the wild card game format gives you literally each wild card game is elimination. So I do like the old format. I'm not opposed to this format, but I do like the reseeding aspect. I definitely agree with that.
I definitely enjoy the excitement of the wild card game and seeing my team go through. I know you guys have seen your team in that scenario as well. Seeing the Yankees go through, I think Tom, it was like 3 times.
It was like every year. It was
Twins in 17, the A's in 18, and the Red Sox too. Forgot about that one. That wasn't fun at all.
That was not fun. And Houston,
exciting, but it is so deflating because anybody can win one game. But what we've seen also, anybody can win any 5-game series. Anybody can win any 3-game series. So I do miss the excitement of it, Corey. And maybe there is a room for something like that to come back. I truly think the wild card is good where it's at. I don't know about listen, you expand, you go to 4 divisions, and you have that even split, so be it. But if you have the wild card, listen, the Rays won 99 games being the first wild card. I mean, that's a team that deserves to get in the playoffs, regardless how bad their second half was. But it's crazy stuff. Now, just sticking to this World Series, D-backs, Texas Rangers. By the time next week's show, which is our season finale, comes on the air, we'll know who the World Series winner is because this goes Game 7. We'll know by Saturday. So I'll ask you guys once again, go around the room. I'll start with Corey here. Who do you got? Your World Series winner, how many games, and who's going to be the MVP?
I have it going literally to the very last game. I am going to go with the Arizona Diamondbacks in a Game 7 with Mets castaway Tommy Pham being the World Series MVP. He's just been hot and clutch this run. I'm going with Tommy Pham, MVP for the World Series, Diamondbacks in 7.
I'm going Diamondbacks in 7. I think they got a lot of momentum, and I think the MVP is going to end up being Merrill Kelly. He's going to pitch another game. He could theoretically pitch a clinching game, and if he has another performance anywhere close to what he had in Game 2, he is going to be very, very favored to win that MVP slot. So I think that's it. The starting pitching is integral here. Gallen has kind of been up and down, and Merrill Kelly's been a rock this postseason. He's been fantastic. He's making himself a household name. I think it's going to end up being him in a deciding game that could end it.
I'll take the Rangers in 6, and I'll take Corey Seager to win his 2nd World Series MVP. He had the massive home run in Game 1 to tie the game, and I think he has at least one more moment like that in him. Adolis Garcia, almost very similar to how with the 2009 Yankees that A-Rod really carried them to the World Series, and then not that he didn't have a bad World Series, but he didn't continue that extreme hot streak, and then Matsui won the MVP. I can see Seager at this point kind of like just picking it up. And granted, Garcia hit the walk-off of game 1, but Seager keep it going, and he takes the World Series MVP. Rangers in 6.
I got Rangers as well. They're going to go all 7. And the young upstart Evan Carter will be your World Series MVP. I mean, you talk about a kid who's got only under 2 months of Major League experience at this rate, if that. I think he was able to buy beer about a couple of months ago for the first time. And he will be our hero of this World Series, Evan Carter, to win the World Series MVP.
I did want to do a shout out to Ketel Marte, who now has the longest postseason hit streak, right, in history, and with expanded playoffs, right, a lot of the other records of most RBIs and most hits in a postseason, that stuff's always going to get broken because you're putting more and more games and guys are going to play more. But a hit streak is a hit streak. So, hats off to Ketel Marte for breaking that record. I think if Diamondbacks win, he could be a dark horse for the World Series MVP.
All righty. Keep an eye out on him, and we'll move forward with our postseason talk later on. Now, before I get to the next segment, just for one last time, just for the sake of making fun of how bad our brackets were, and Corey did a good job with that reel the other day, pulling in the points. But my goodness, look at this graveyard. If we just roll through this real quick, and Joe's didn't even get out of the gate. Didn't even get out of the gate. So bad here. The only semi okay one, but still not even a World Series appearance by any of the teams we chose. And Tom with a Diamondback run there as well. So I
thought you were going to make Joe say Max Scherzer. I thought when you said horrible things, I thought we were going to have Joe say Max Scherzer one more time.
No. We had enough of that. Max Scherzer looking into the camera saying, "Eat my ass, Joe," was enough.
Listen, he shoved. He shoved
for 3 2/3 innings. Come on.
Listen, he did his job.
And it wasn't even a shove. It was
a shove.
It was a gentle nudge.
Listen, he did his job. He did his job. He got the boys there. Listen, he could be World Series MVP. He pitches a gem tonight. He pitches a gem tonight, and then he gets the ball in game 7. Yeah, 5 innings of shutout ball
out there.
Yeah.
He can be the close.
All right.
If he closes it out, oh boy, Joe,
that would be something.
Joe
Nothing would make me happier than to see a Max Scherzer implosion in Game 7. When you talk about making me and every Met fan on the planet happy, watching Scherzer blow Game 7,
just a
bring a smile to our face.
People Mets fans can be. My God,
a nice bottom of the 6, bases loaded, Scherzer versus Pham. How about that?
Listen,
the Ohtani Trout of the.
Yep.
Listen, we deserve to be a little salty when it comes to Max Scherzer.
You're a salty bunch.
We absolutely. He gave up 14 earned runs in 2 games. That one cost us the division and one cost us a wild card. That's all you need to know about his tenure as a Met.
And to watch those 2 games of Max Scherzer, it's best to go to YouTube. But Corey, what's the other reason why you should be going to YouTube?
The other reason to go to YouTube, we have our shorts up there. Full shows are up there. Individual snippets of the shows. We air live on YouTube. So every Monday night at either 7 or 8, depending on the time of year, you could watch us live on YouTube, comment on the show. We'll bring the comments up. We'll reply to them as we go along. Also, the Twitch app. Twitch app was our first ever app used for streaming. We still use it today. A lot of people still interact through Twitch as well. So download both apps on your mobile device. Subscribe to Empire State of Baseball and wait for that notification on your phone, because sometimes we go live on days we're not supposed to go live if there's major breaking news. So get those apps today, download and subscribe.
Well said, sir. Now, if you look at our broadcast, 50% of our show got into the Halloween mood today. Joe went in with the Linus remix of Smalls. Squints from Sandlot. That's it. Forgot the glasses. I went with, I don't know if it's Nestor, Carlos Rodon, Austin Wells, Greg Weisser, the combination of the 4.
Either way, they're on the disabled list.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Except for,
Well, Rodon, yeah. He finished healthy.
Corey didn't pull in the costume, but he gets an excuse because his reel the other day just got 21,000 views and over
nice.
1,000 likes on our Instagram. So he's good. He's good.
And
good
listen, I wanna say I am dressed up, and I'm dressed up because I am dressed as my most comfortable self because I am wearing this amazingly comfortable Rhoback.
This guy never wanted me to finish that segue, huh? All right.
Nope, I took the segue from me. Yep. Wearing just extremely stretchy, comfortable Rhoback Q-Zip. They are a friend of the program here. Make sure you head over to rhoback.com. Check out some polos, Q-Zips, hoodies. They just came out with some fleece pullovers. They got women's stuff as well. And listen, guys out there, if it's something you want, let your family or your lady know. Use promo code TWASPL15 to get 15% off of your order. Holidays, once we get past spooky season here, we're right into the holiday season, so it'll be the best time to get your orders placed. Get things before Christmas or whatever other kind of holidays you might celebrate. Rhoback.com, promo code TWASPL15, 50%.
You highly recommend those. I know you're a big golfer there, Tom. So you highly recommend those golf polos, correct?
I do. Real good polo there. Again, it's stretchy, but they're not like too baggy. The same with like the Q-Zips. I was talking to my one friend the other day who actually was placing an order that a lot of times with like the Q-Zips and the hoodies, the sleeves are like too baggy, so that they kind of move around a lot when you're playing. These are, I'm not saying these are tight, but they are snug enough that they're not going to kind of get in the way. So they're both warm, but also, it makes you look a little slimmer, which is nice. Because a little amount of compression.
Us New York baseball fans, we celebrated last week because we equally rejoiced at the fact that the Philadelphia Phillies and the Houston Astros were both knocked out of the playoffs just in time for them to hit the Lynx. And what's the best way to hit the Lynx is doing it a Rhoback shirt because they got it in large, medium. They got the smalls for Jose Altuve. So while they're hitting the Lynx, they're hitting our Rhoback link. Use the code 15%.
Jose Altuve is not allowed to use the link.
He's not allowed to use the link.
No. Actually, if he puts the code in, it charges him 15% more.
Oh, my God.
It was a deal I set up back. Yeah.
It's 50% more.
If Jose.Altuve at HoustonAstro.com places an order.
No, wait, but isn't that good for us? Because if we get a hit now from Rhoback and they saw that we charge now 50% more because we recommended Altuve to go in, that's good for us. That's not bad.
Listen, you don't want people like Jose Altuve wearing your brand. It's bad for the brand.
And I will tell you what, for this Halloween, I actually am dressed up for the show right now. I'm Jose Altuve at home during the World Series, so that's my costume for today.
Look just like him.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, that's Rhoback. 15% off, TWASPL15. All righty, let's get into the game, which is, of course, ESP games are presented by Rhoback. Our current standings right now, Tom in the lead with 18, Joe with 16, and a tie for third place between Corey and I. And tonight, we play Trick of the Trade, but Halloween's tomorrow, gentlemen. We are not playing Trick of the Trade tonight. We are playing Trick or Trade, which is the same game, just with the Halloween remix.
Same thing.
So, Joseph, who is our guy without telling us? What do we got here?
Okay, so this trade happened May 14th, 1998. It was the prelude to Mike Piazza becoming a Met. In that trade, Piazza and Todd Zeile came to the Florida Marlins. Manuel Berrios, Jim Eisenreich, Charles Johnson, and future Met, and probably the biggest name in this trade, maybe, went to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Who was the other prominent name in this trade that went to the Dodgers?
Bobby Bonilla.
And Tom got it without any.
Oh my God.
Nice.
Oh my goodness. What, you practiced on this, Thomas? Bobby Bonilla.
Listen, we're coming down to the end here, and I needed to do some studying on Baseball Reference. I went through Mets transactions for 15 years. This one stuck out to me.
It is an interesting trade, though.
It wasn't even a Met transaction.
It wasn't a Met transaction. That sucks.
That's true. That's true.
The infamous Bobby Bonilla, who was, I believe,
I knew Joe was tricky, though, so I was looking. You never know with Joe. He always throws stuff out there. I'm surprised he didn't put a ball boy in the trade.
He did that with the Diamondback Red Sox deal from a few months back. So Yeah, you never know with him. So, Thomas, let's see what you got here. What do you got here, Tom? You got a Pirates Royals trade of sorts? What do
No,
you got?
I actually follow, the general guidelines of the show. I got Tigers Yankees trade. The Tigers acquired this former Yankee for 3 bags of balls. Anthony Claggett, Humberto Sanchez, Claggett, sure, and Kevin Whelan.
Huh.
I remember Claggett did mop-up duty in a game where like the Cleveland Indians scored 20-plus runs on him. I think he was a starter, actually, but he was heavily involved in that game. I think he gave up like 10 earned.
So what's
But it's not about Claggett.
What was the guess, Joe?
Too early for Jabba Chamberlain, right?
Yes.
It is not our good friend Jabba.
Is it? Is this Marcus Timms?
It's not Marcus Timms, but he
Ooh,
was.
good
He
guess.
did end up a Tiger. This is again November 10th, 2006. This was also kind of crazy. This is like right after the World Series. It had been
not Gary
That's right.
Sheffield. I know we just mentioned him.
it is Gary Sheffield.
Wow.
Oh, let's go! All right, finally.
And I knew it because I actually almost submitted Joe's trade. I had it ready to send. And then I did some digging into Gary Sheffield, and I ended up with that trade. So that is why the second I saw it, I said, it's Bobby Bonilla.
That would have been funny if both of you guys had the same one, too.
Well, obviously, somebody would have put a stop to that.
Yep. Oh,
my goodness. All right, well, there you go. Gary Sheffield, rather. Gary Sheffield, which is funny again. He was listed on the previous trade. So there we go.
Yep.
Trick.
That's how I got to
trade.
him. I looked at that trade, then I clicked Gary Sheffield. I'm like, oh, look at that. Gary Sheffield. Actually, I think I started with Gary Sheffield, and I saw the trade that Joe chose, and then I realized the Yankees traded him to Detroit. So
okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, now our updated standings here. I think Tom now has 19, Joe at 16. I pulled ahead now at 3 with 13. Corey is back in 4th place at 12. But next week, season finale, which means there's only one game that's really going to determine who's the winner of this thing. Core Curriculum. And Core Curriculum, and I talked to Core, and I found out that he has a lot of multi-answer questions in tow. So this is anybody's.
We're gonna have to set some guidelines on how these points are handed out for multi-answer questions.
This is gonna be something big, but we'll see here. Now, Michael Parziali here in the chat, maybe PNN, but Rich resembling the Nestor stash, and it is PNN. Yes, PNN. Tom, I'll inform you what PNN is.
I don't want to
down
know.
the line. All right. Now, Joe, I mean, you can inform us about PNN, but I really want you to talk about let's talk about X. No more Twitter.
Yes, we are live we are airing live on X. We have about 2,300 followers and counting right now. You can follow us at ESB Podcast and also follow us individually at G Gory for Corey, myself at JR Pugs, Rich at Rich J Rivera, and Tom at T Waspel. Follow us for daily posts, tweets. I don't even know what you call them anymore.
Probably tweets, because Twitter.
Responses, content, and more.
I think they call them tweets anymore. I think Joe got it. I think now when you retweet, it says repost now. So I think you're right. I think it's now post.
Guys,
there you go. I didn't make the rules, man. You got to take that up with Elon.
Yeah, it says post. It no longer says tweet on the button.
There you go. Repost. So it's no longer tweet. It's no longer Twitter. It is X now and forever.
Yeah. Man,
all right, top of the order.
Got to pay for those rockets to Mars somehow.
Tom, you have a comment on Elon? I know you're a big fan.
We're good.
All right, top of the order. Our top of the order segment is back. We haven't done one since earlier on in the year where we talked about some of our favorite baseball stadiums that we've seen in our lifetime. So I want to keep it personal once again. And since we are in the midst of the World Series, let's talk about our favorite postseason moments of our lifetime. Now, we could have been live for these moments. We didn't have to be. We could have been at home watching these moments. They're not they're not constricted to just New York. Anything in MLB. Watch the big game and you thought it was your favorite, it makes the list. So I want to know in our chat here on X, YouTube, and Twitch, what is your favorite postseason moment that you remember most? Either you watched it, you were there live. I want to find out. So hit us up in the comments. Now, Tom, why don't you kick us off here? with your top of the order list here. Top 3 favorite postseason moments.
Sure. Yeah. So we'll start at the bottom. We'll start at number 3. ALCS Game 2 of the 09 run. The 13th inning walk-off, which frankly wasn't a very exciting moment. Jerry Harrison Jr. scored on an error. But I had this on my list because this was on a Saturday night in college. We were at a house party, and everyone literally left the party in the basement to come upstairs to watch the game. Yankees winning a walk-off, and it was just like an electric night. So that moment, that run was a lot of fun being in college for it. So I had that at my number 3 spot. Number 2, poor Rangers. Reminder of this, but the David Freese walk-off home run in Game 6 of the 11 World Series, and this a lot for the reason this is here. And I know Joe Buck gets a lot of hate, I think undeservingly so. I think Joe Buck is excellent at what he does, but the see you tomorrow night, emulating his father, that's one of those things that can't write itself. So David Freese's walk off. And then number 1, I have Mr. November. Again, I got the Rangers in 2, and I got the D-backs in 1. Kind of messed up. But yeah, I got November. You got Jeter with the walk-off Game 4 of the 01 World Series of it's almost hard to pick between all the home runs and the walk-offs in that World Series, but Mr. November is so iconic, so I have it in my number 1 spot.
Absolutely, and with what happened in the world, of course, not just a month ago, with everything going into all the drama, I tell you what, if you hadn't had a chance to watch 9 innings from Ground Zero, I forgot who produced it. It might have been HBO. Phenomenal representation of what obviously we were going through as Americans, but what New Yorkers were experiencing during the time, and how sports and baseball specifically kind of brought people back together in such a non-secure world where you just didn't know what was going to happen when you left your house. They touched on Mike Piazza's big home run against the Braves, and of course this World Series. So absolutely. Now I would have loved to have listed Jeter on mine.
Of all time. Greatest first pitch of all time. George W.
Absolutely.
Bush.
George W. Bush, and
strike.
he showed off the.
I don't know. 50 cents was pretty good.
Right there.
I gotta say, I'm impressed. Tom put a Cardinal moment. It's not like the Mets, where the Mets don't have enough moments, and I didn't even think to put a couple, and I got thoughts when we get to mine. But I'm very impressed. Tom put a St. Louis not only put it in his list, but put it second in his list.
Oh, yeah.
It was a great moment, one of the great games in postseason history. But I'm just very surprised at Tom. He had a lot to choose from.
I did, but we are not just a Yankee Met show, and I wanted to show some love to that moment. It's just a moment that I kind of, when I hear like big playoff moments, in my lifetime, it sticks out. Just again, and a lot of it is the call. It's the call of Joe Buck being able to emulate his father's call, and essentially the same exact moment, the same exact call. It's again, you can't write it. It was an awesome time. I think I was looking at a party for that too, if I remember.
I know we're kind of rambling here, but you mentioned Joe Buck, and yeah, I'm kind of with you. He got a lot of hate. And when I think of nostalgia and I think of baseball playoffs, a lot of those big moments synonymous. It was Joe Buck and Tim McCarver in the booth.
There's no one that makes
I cherish a lot of the moments that those two were in my living room, basically broadcasting those games.
You know what I think the issue with Joe Buck was? I think Joe kind of comes off as lacking energy sometimes, but and you kind of realize it now. And I believe Joe Davis is the play-by-play now.
Yes.
And no disrespect to Joe Davis, but when Joe Davis thinks every single play is the greatest thing he's ever seen, it kind of gets to you after a while, and it makes you appreciate Buck. Buck stays within the moment. He knows that they're big moments. He knows they define themselves, and sometimes letting the moment speak for itself more so than screaming about, there was the play the other day that ricocheted off the bag to Christian Walker, who sprinted to the bag for a bang bang play out, and Joe Davis acted like it was the greatest, like the greatest play I've ever seen in a 7.
The Mr. November Bucks on that call. I don't think he
Yeah.
says anything. He lets it happen. He lets the crowd do it. I don't think there's anyone, MLB or NFL, that makes a moment feel bigger than having Joe Buck on the call. It just, he brings a gravitas to it. And I think he is the best, even though everyone hates him because everyone thinks that he hates their team. And I know I've heard him say many times that he's just rooting for who's losing. He basically just wants there to be a comeback, and then he wants that team. He wants the other team to come back. Like, he wants to have those big moments. It's what he really is there for. So
he has an old school style. It's rare to have that. He's very much of the Vince Scully lineage where he lets the moments go. And again, I get it. I get why some people might dislike it. There's no denying that there are some moments that he is synonymous with. I think there's a little bit of a healthy balance, and I think, sometimes guys like Joe Davis or some of those guys can go a little over the top.
Absolutely. All righty. Well, Joe, let's take a look at your top 3.
Yeah. So the problem with the Mets is there's not many big moments. So, and it's funny, all these moments happen in situations where I think the Mets ended up losing these series, but there's something about the excitement that these moments added that stuck out to me. Robin Ventura's grand slam single was iconic, in the rain, in a messy series against their arch rival Braves, making the Braves board the plane back to Georgia, which I believe Bob Costas was on the call, and that was his call that night. That's number 3 for me. Number 2 is David Wright's home run, and even more so than the home run, that whole game. The Mets were down 2-0. Syndergaard had brushed Escobar back, and they still ended up getting to him. I think the whole stadium, I was there that night, was a little demoralized, and David Wright did something we weren't sure he had left in him, and he had a bomb, changed the game. He had 4 or 5 RBIs that night, really put his mark on the World Series. After all those years, all the injuries, seeing the captain do that for us was get his moment in his career. And number 1 is the catch. I know the game ends in heartbreak. It is without a doubt the greatest catch of all time in baseball history. There is no catch in a bigger moment, in a bigger situation that defines what a big catch is. I don't care about Willie Mays. Willie Mays happened in game 1 of a World Series. It didn't. This saved, at least for a few innings, saved this game.
Corey, can you please tell Joe that he is out of his mind by saying this is the greatest defensive play?
It is the greatest
baseball history
of all time.
All right, this is the way I'll put it. If you put the moment with the catch,
Corey, don't go down this sinking ship.
I kind of
don't embarrass yourself. You're better than
moment.
This.
Now the catch itself, we've seen crazier plays. I totally agree. But I think with the moment on top of it is what makes it special.
There is no bigger catch in a bigger spot. There's no catches like that in elimination games in the not to that level. If you find me one, I'll debate you.
I'll raise you a Derek Jeter flip because they won.
Come on! The ball was making it to home plate without Jeter interfering. So
I wouldn't say that Derek Jeter's flip is the greatest defensive play in the history of
come on, that's not the greatest defensive play of all time.
At least they won the series. At least they won the game.
If Giambi, the runner had to make an error to do it to make that the greatest play. The runner didn't slide. It was a disgusting display of baseball.
There's nothing more disgusting than you saying that catch is the greatest defensive play in baseball history.
The only other catch that's close is Willie Mays' catch in the World Series.
The only play that's even close is the most iconic baseball. Okay.
It is. If the Mets had won the game, it wouldn't be a debate.
And I will say the Endy Chavez catch is definitely the best play I've ever seen live watching a game.
100%.
Well, again, if we're touching on impact of the moment, it's definitely up
Rich.
there. I mean, Jim Edmonds
Jesus
making
Christ,
that
don't you
diving
go down
Will
on this-
Mays
on
catch
this.
was the best play I've ever seen in my entire life. That play was phenomenal. That Jim
Yeah,
Edmonds
if
had made
we're
years-
eliminating
it was
regular
a regular
season, if you're
season
saying if you're eliminating regular season, and we're just saying postseason, because there is a difference, because there is a magnitude of it. There's still no way. There's still they lost the game.
I understand, but it saved the game. I mean, that saved the game. The offensive ineptitude at the end was on the Mets.
I might
But
take Christian
that's a
Walker's play from
one-run
game one.
In the sixth, that was a 2-run homer that he took back. That game's over if that ball
So
goes
the
out.
sixth inning.
In the bottom of the sixth of the play, on top of the sixth of the game 7. How many teams hit a 2-run go-ahead home run in the sixth inning of a game 7 game and lose the game?
Tom, didn't Nettles like single-handedly save the Yankees World Series in like 1978 by making like 3 of the most phenomenal plays by a third baseman in the World Series?
I believe so, and I'm pretty sure
Something like that.
I'm pretty sure I can go back in the last 10 years of World Series, just World Series highlights, and find a better, more impactful play than that.
Well,
But
I
not
would-
But I haven't thinking one on top of my head. I
magnitude
can
of
just
it.
find
I mean,
one.
That's a not a normal play. That's not a diving ground ball in the hole. That is a robin of a home run.
I'll take any Derek Jeter throw from the hole play. At least they won.
The throws from the hole that Jeter couldn't get to, so he had to invent a way to throw it to first.
Odd Pratt getting the shout out here. Homer in game
love it.
99.
Right, yep.
No loser plays from A3
Oh.
D right
I will
wing.
say-
All right.
Before we get to Corey, the best non-Met moment that I've seen when Madison Bumgarner came out
Of course.
in the World Series, when they opened the doors for him and he had that look that said, no one is touching me tonight. And I forgot where he went. 3 innings or something like that.
The fact that
Relief.
Joe put 3
on
Met
2
plays
days
off
rest.
is also obscene.
That was
Let's
an
get the Corey
incredible
here.
And Bumgarner could win a World Series ring just sitting on the sidelines. So once again, Corey, what do you have here, man?
Yeah, looking at my top 3 that we have here, I'm also going with the Endy Chavez catch. I put it at my number 3 for the moment. I mean, again, I'm not going to go into too much detail there. Best play I've ever seen live in the field. What a moment. I remember sitting in my living room watching it happen. Number 2 and number 1, starting with number 2, even though the moments themselves are nothing too crazy in the grand scheme of things, they definitely have a place in my heart because I was live at Citi Field for number 2, Shea Stadium for number 1 in person. So starting with number 2, this was most recently in 2015, and it was the NLCS Game 1 versus the Cubs. Mets came out, took Game 1. At this game, it was without a doubt the coldest baseball game I ever attended in person. It was absolutely frigid to the point I had to buy another hoodie at the stadium and put on top of my other hoodie because it was just so cold. I had about 5 layers of shirts on.
Could have really used a rollback hoodie then, Corey.
I could have used a rollback.
Guys,
hoodie.
you would have been so comfortable and warm and cozy.
Yep. If only I had that 15% discount code. But the rollback hoodie would have came in handy. But I went with that series there, and I was in Jets Bills in Buffalo earlier that January, Week 17, win and in game for the Jets. They ended up losing. It actually snowed in Buffalo that weekend, and I was much colder at Game 2 at Citi Field later that year. So I'll always remember that, and the Mets won the game. And number 1 for me, this was the first ever postseason game I attended live as a fan, 2006. 2006, even though they didn't win it all, they didn't even go to the World Series, arguably my favorite Mets team, favorite Mets season I ever watched. Right in high school. I mean, I probably watched 150 of the 162 games and watched all the recaps for the ones I missed. Went to that game live, pregame. Met Oliver Perez, got his signature. It was just such a great moment to be there. First ever playoff game. So it's something I'll always remember.
So if you're a Met fan, you're hoping by the next time the Mets get to the next NLCS, Corey goes to game 1 because
Yeah.
2-0 in
You should
NLCS
hope that a
game
guy
1.
can field a ground ball. It might be the greatest defensive player on Joe's new list.
Oh, let me tell you, I was also there for when Lucas Duda did not field the ground ball, and Daniel Murphy couldn't field ground ball. Lucas Duda threw wild at home plate. So I saw some bad infield plays too. Yep. Oh, talk about a.
How about that performance? I mean, we talk about Adolis Garcia this year, and even like guys like Jordan and Altuve, but Daniel Murphy in that 2015 playoff run was something spectacular. It got me on his side. The way he was just coming through against not even just like pitchers, but some of the best pitchers in baseball at the time.
I think he did it. The list of pitchers he had gotten to. It was Kershaw twice, Greinke twice, Lester. There's another one in there that was a major pitcher. I think
Arrieta, I think.
Arrieta, that was it. I mean, these were not bums. These were Cy Youngs.
Yeah.
And he tagged every single one of them. And in Kershaw and Greinke's case, he tagged them twice. I mean, that game 5 where Murphy hit that home run in game 5 of the NLDS, that changed that game. And that should probably be up there for me because that was the first time I actually felt like in that game that the Mets were going to win because it looked like the Dodgers were just going to outlast them. And Murphy got to him, and it was like, what got into him?
Yeah.
You know, he became, you know, a scrappy hitter. He became the slugger in those 2 series. And then of course it disappeared after that, but you know, it was special. And I still remember the Murphy, it's the Murphy playoff series. That's what it was.
It certainly was. And for mine here, yeah, we went with a couple Yankees, but I'm with Tom here. The David Freese game, that St. Louis Cardinals Texas Rangers game 6 of the 2011 World Series was absolutely one of the best games I've ever seen in my entire life. Everybody forgets after Freese tied the game, the Texas Rangers came back, took the lead. I believe it was off a Josh Hamilton 2-run bomb, and then they came back the very next inning. Lance Berkman tying the game. So it was a nice back and forth, and of course the Joe Buck call at the end for Freese, sending it to Game 7, where the Cardinals would eventually win on a magical postseason run. Number 2, I got the Yankees winning the 2009 World Series, and many of you know, because I mentioned it multiple times in the show, I didn't start watching baseball until 2003, so I wasn't around I was around, but I didn't see or enjoy the dynasty days. So this was the first World Series I can clearly remember watching with my pop and enjoying it and going to the championship parade just a few days later. So that sits at number 2. And number 1,
I paraded around my college campus when they won that World Series, hammered, hanging out of the side of the car. I wasn't driving the car. Someone else was driving the car. And I literally went on parade just screaming at people because the Yankee Philly World Series in a Central Jersey school, it was a fun time to be alive. My God, did I make an impression on some people.
I hate to say it, I rooted for the Yankees in 2000.
I did too.
Because
really,
I
get
went to
the hell out. I don't
school.
believe it.
I went to school in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, man. It is Philly country in Wilkes-Barre. And I remember it was Halloween weekend, the games were on, and we were drinking, and I was as obnoxious of a Yankee.
We popped champagne, like actual champagne.
At the time.
Yeah, and even though from a Mets standpoint, because I agree with Joe, I rooted for the Yankees. But that 3 or 4 year run with the Phillies, man, I mean, they went absolutely off against the Mets between the 2 collapses.
Yeah.
And in that era of Mets baseball, the Phillies were our greatest rival.
Yeah. Phillies were the bad guys.
Yeah. And the Braves, across our lifetime, the Braves were the biggest Mets rival. But in that 5-year stretch, it was 100% the Phillies. So I root for the Yankees as well.
It's different when you have to live with the, you know what I mean? Like,
I lived in Pennsylvania for a long time, so I do understand what you're saying.
When you live with the enemy,
I hear you. Oh boy, and Joe's gone, and I was gonna say it's going to become a Tom and Corey show, which would be it would be a grand time.
Yeah.
Good to see Rich back and Joe left for a second, but Joe's back.
Mid beer chug.
Mid beer chug. But yes, the '09 World Series. I don't know if you guys had an additional point there before.
Oh, we had plenty of points. We filled the time.
Fantastic. I appreciate you guys. Y'all professionals. And number one is the moment that got me into baseball. 2003 was really the first year I got into the game. And so it was the first playoff run that I was able to see. And this game was the one that said, man, Rich, baseball is literally the greatest sport of all time. Phenomenal back and forth game. Well, not really a back and forth game. Is the Red Sox had predominantly a 4-1 lead over the Yanks. They had the comeback late in the game, the Posada big hit, tying the game, Matsui double down the line. And then
Matsui with the celebration, which is like the most
yes,
emotion we had ever seen in Matsui, even in the '09 World Series. Like him scoring that run.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep. I mean, again, 2003, Matsui's rookie year. So I'm sure the moment was the biggest of his career at that point between what he did in Yomiuri and there. But yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I'd never seen him more energetic than that moment right there after he helped carry the Yankees in '09.
Pedro refusing to come out. And then that
Pedro refusing to come out. And then we unfortunately had to say goodbye to Tim Wakefield, but it was unfortunately Tim Wakefield who offered up the walk-off homer to the future manager of the New York Yankees that we now constantly talk about, Aaron Boone.
The only reason he's manager is that moment. So, depending how you feel about Aaron Boone, might change how you feel about that moment. Because if he doesn't do that, he's not the Yankee manager right now. There's no way.
It's a fair take. It's a fair take. I'm sure it definitely put him at the top of the leaderboard when we talk about those managers. But yeah, the moment definitely helped him get the role, and Aaron F. Boone, and the rest is history. Alrighty, well, that's the top of the order. We are at the 7:56 mark, and before we put a close to the show, Thomas, what do we got on Instagram?
We got all kinds of fun things on Instagram. Mostly, we should just rename the Instagram to the Corey Show, because Corey is putting out just reel upon reel, getting 20,000 views, thousands of likes, a lot of fun stuff going on the Instagram. So give us a follow at Empire State of Baseball. You can follow the man behind the Golden Reels at Corey Favs, and then the three other jokers at JR Pugs, Rich J. Rivera, and T. Waspel. You can follow us again for the fun reels we're putting up. Some recaps. I'm sure we might be doing some recaps for the World Series, and I'll say stay tuned, because if this World Series gets to games 6 and 7, I will be in Texas, not in Arlington, but I will be in Texas for those games. So I'm curious to see what the reaction is going to be. Going to be down in Austin for the weekend. I think if the Rangers win, I'm not sure how crazy they're going to get for it, but if they do, we'll have some fun live content coming from the state of Texas.
I hope so.
Or just or if they lose, maybe just some sad people. It'll be one of the two things.
Either way, you have something to look forward to.
Yeah.
No, Arizona ain't that far away. I got to assume some Diamondback fans might have bled over to maybe where the area of Texas you're going to be in. You never know. You could get a double celebration here. But anyway, Corey, great stuff on the Instagram. Have you gotten a lot of pushback from Philly? I haven't seen a lot of butthurt Philly fans come after you.
There haven't. I mean, there's been a couple of people saying, "Oh, this is all New York fans have to look forward to in the playoffs." You got to get those comments in there, but most of it are actually Philly fans mocking their own team. So,
love it.
From that standpoint, it works out good.
Listen, when you hit like that right tone and it's funny, like everyone can laugh at it. If it's not done well, then it's like what a bunch of salty Yankee or Met fans. But when you do it right, you can't help but laugh. You got to laugh through the pain.
Exactly.
Good stuff there, man. Well, we do have one more episode left to cover this postseason push, because we'll be talking about the finals of the World Series. Who will it be? Will it be Arizona? Will it be Texas? Well, we're going to talk about it next week on our season 2 finale. That's Monday, November the 6th, 7 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure to tune in for that. And of course, even though next week's our season 2 finale, we're not going to be going anywhere too far. Well, we'll take a little mini hiatus. There's a week, and off season number 2 makes its return Monday, November the 20th, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Now, if you were with us last year, you remember what those first 2 episodes were of the all season, and those were the off season agenda episodes, which we're going to bring back for this year. So starting with our Mets faithful, Corey and Joe, assuming the roles as GM/PBO of the Mets, and putting their brains together to come up with their plans, their separate plans, that is, for the all season for the New York Mets. And then that very next Tuesday, which is November the 21st, me and Tom will grab the Yankee side of the house. So make sure to come back for our all-season episodes. We'll have a few of them throughout the off-season, scattered. They won't be weekly, but we will let you know when they are scheduled. All right, so it's 8 o'clock now, so let's send it around the room for some final thank yous. Thomas, should we just skip you?
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
Cool. Joe?
Thank you to Rangers.
Skip Corey.
Just thank you, everybody. Love you all.
Make it this quick. I like it. All right, guys. Well, for those of you who celebrate, have a very happy Halloween. Enjoy the holiday tomorrow. And for Thomas and Joseph and Corey, hope you get some nice things in your trick-or-treat basket. All right. Take care.